live from Brooklyn, Michigan. It's race number 4 of the season number 7 of the Fuel Grand National Series, live from the Michigan International Speedway, the Kettle Lakes 100. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, lads of all ages. Live from the Michigan International Speedway here on the North American Sim Racing Network. My name is Trey Wright, and joined alongside me here is the Colonel Caleb Rose here at the Michigan International Speedway here on the NESRN, getting ready for race number 4, season number 7 here. And Caleb, Michigan is a bad, fast facility here and plenty of action, plenty of areas to run. 4 exciting races. That man right there on your screen has dominated the last 3 races here, as Zach Rogers has won the last 3 races to start the season. Caleb, what are your expectations going into what is certain to be a fantastic race here at the Michigan International Speedway?
So Michigan, definitely a very bad, fast racetrack. This 2.0 Speedway here in Brooklyn, Michigan, and it's always usually a lot of fun here in NR2003, so I'm definitely expecting a very interesting race here tonight. Of course, I've been up in the booth a couple times here so far for the Sportsman Series, but first time here for the Grand National Series, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Really excited to see how it'll all go down, especially with the difference in how the series is open setups. So I'm definitely very intrigued to see how everything will play out. It's definitely going to be a fun one for Michigan. I'm very excited to see how it plays out, but Zach Rogers, like you mentioned, he's dominated these first couple races of the season. Rogers definitely very talented there behind the wheels, so I definitely expecting a bit there out of that 88 machine. We'll have to see if he can blow the doors off these guys here tonight, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it's going to be a lot of fun here from Michigan.
It definitely is. We take a look at your starting lineup. Apollo Hyde won the pole position over Zach Rogers. Those two will likely be the class of the field. Ike Durbin will start on the inside of row number 2, alongside with Emmy Schizzato, and Crystal Bennett and Nikki Conti will round out the starting 6. Vincenzo Focusado will start in 7th, Trechtalger 8th. Jelaine Sims makes their return after 2 races gone in that number 06 car. They'll be starting in the 9th spot in that 06 Granger machine, and Taylor Stallhood will round out the top 10. 20 cars will be starting the race here this evening at the Michigan International Speedway, and it's certainly going to be a heck of a show. So we'll take a look at your race analysis. 20 cars on the starting grid for a 50-lap feature here at the Michigan International Speedway. The point of no return, lap 46. 18 degrees of banking in the corners. And, of course, it's going to be a fuel mileage race potentially if this race goes caution-free. 50 laps, and typically you can do about 23 to 26 laps on a fuel run. As we take a look at the track itself here, run-of-the-mill 4-corner track like we see at Texas World and Auto Club, the sister tracks here at the Michigan International Speedway. And of course, like we said, if we can find him on the track, that man right there, Zach Rogers, has been absolutely dominating everything in sight. Take a look at the chase standings here. Actually, those are the wrong point standings. Those are the point standings for my offline side of things, but Zach Rogers currently leads the chase standings here in the Fuel Racing League by quite a wide margin over Vincenzo Focusado as he looks for win number 4. Trying to go 4 for 4 in that Spinebuster Chevrolet Camaro for Team Velocity. Both Team Velocity cars are on track here with Jelaine Sims also in there, and there's the outside pole sitter of Apollo Hyde, spinning around through the infield, getting ready to kick things off. So we'll be ready to kick things off as well here at the Michigan International Speedway. When we come back, it'll be time for the starting lineup and the start of race number 4 of the season, the Kettle Lakes 100. As Apollo Hyde will take the pole position in the number 100 machine, we're ready to turn him on and grid him up here for 50 laps around Brooklyn, Michigan. 20 cars on the starting grid. We'll send it down trackside for the most famous words in motorsports to get race number 4 of Season 7 kicked off here, the Fuel Racing League.
Drivers, start your engines!
And the engines roar to life here on the back straightaway at the Michigan International Speedway. 20 cars on the grid and getting ready to do battle for 100 miles here in Brooklyn, Michigan. Apollo Hyde and Zach Rogers, your front row. Ike Durbin and Emmy Schizzato, row 2. Crystal Bennett and Nikki Conti, row 3. Trek Togger and Vincenzo Focusato, row 4. Jelaine Sims and Tyler Stallhood round out the top 10. Caleb, it's going to be one heck of a race here. Zach Rogers has been the dominant driver this season. Who is your pick to go to victory lane for the Kettle Lakes 100?
I think we're definitely going to expect a great battle here up towards the front of the field. And honestly, you know what? I think I'm going to go with Apollo Hyde to potentially get it done here at Michigan. But regardless of who gets it done, it's going to be fun. As here we go.
Here we go. Coming to the start-finish line. Green flag is out and away. The start of race 4 of the season is underway here at Michigan. Bennett going around. Actually, that's RJ Bishop as well as Crystal Bennett. Rich Roy also grabbing a piece there in the 29. No caution has been thrown yet, but Bennett going sideways on the opening quarter of the track. Zach Rogers going to the race lead in that number 88 car. The caution flag still not out. And Rogers will go to the point in the 88 with Apollo Hyde still in pursuit, trying to go to the outside. Hyde utilizing the outside lane. There he goes down to the inside. Hyde underneath of Rogers. Now Rogers looking for the crossover move underneath the 100. We saw in practice how loose the back end of that 100 car is going to step out, Caleb. It was like the entire rear end housing was hanging loose, going especially in turns 1 and 2. Hyde back out front. Now what can Rogers do to try to track down that number 100 car that's out front by about 3 car lengths? How about Vincenzo Focusato has gained a ton of time. We had a brief step out there.
Very fast, very kind of loose racetrack as well. It's really easy to kind of slip up here. But yeah, these guys absolutely flying around here so far. We got a good battle for the lead still here between Apollo Hyde and Zach Rogers. Ike Durbin sitting in third, but like you mentioned, Focusato there in the 37 has had a fantastic start to this race. Is really closing in here on our top 3. Looks to potentially start going after this 86 of Ike Durbin for third here in the next little bit. Definitely been an interesting start to this race, and definitely could expect a lot more as this race plays along.
Certainly will. Top 4 cars, all pretty much single file. Top 5 if you include Emmy Schizzato. Rounding out that opening 5, Jelaine Sims already +4 on the grid. How about this? Dunlop Pride, a name we haven't seen in a couple of weeks here on the Fuel Racing League. Glad to see that Hershey's machine back on the warpath in that 74. Nikki Conti and Trek Togger rounding out the top 9. Brendan Whitford and Tyler Stallhood in a battle for the top 10 spot. Blake Warren falling back. Same thing with the 4 of Drew Fast. And new name on the grid, Andrew Estrada. First time, the 4th entry from Millennium Autosport has been on the track as he tries to go up to the high side of RJ Bishop back in his father's throwback that he ran at Darlington. Another new name, the 02 of Connor Edwards. And Corbin Wentz rounding everybody. And again, Rich Roy was caught up in that lap 1 accident, but not enough to the point to bring out the caution flag. Rafaela Sorensen right now. The last car on the lead lap, and Crystal Bennett 1 lap down after getting a tow back to the pit lane. 3 cars in a dogfight for the race lead. Rogers a lane lower than Hyde. Trying to get around that number 100 car, and the caution flag is out for the opening time this afternoon. Somebody has gone around off turns 1 and 2, I believe. It may have been Drew Fast. Fast may have gotten a little bit of help. Maybe from Blake Warren. I see a little bit of damage on the side of that 8 machine. The caution flag out for the opening time here. On lap number 6, Apollo Hyde won the race back to the caution flag, and everybody will come down the pit lane here. They're going to have to make at least one more pit stop because they can go about 23 laps like we said at the top of the show. Now we do know that it's not going to come down to fuel mileage. We got that 1 caution out of the way, so everybody's going to be able to break it up between now and 1 more stop with about 20 to go. I'd say everybody would come down with about 15 laps to go, and Tyler Stallhood, he's going to roll the dice here. Same thing with RJ Bishop. Bishop, Edwards electing to stay out. So already some bold strategies on the pit lane as Stallhood is going to get a couple laps led here under the caution. So Apollo Hyde will come in for service the opening time in that number 100 machine. And 4 fresh Goodyear tires going all the way around all these cars. LaPrade, the first one out of his pit stall, but it'll be Hyde, Rogers, and Durbin out and away, and a really good pit stop there for LaPrade. They're 3 wide off the pit lane. Good stop for Schizzato and Sims. Now we'll go ahead and take a look and see what happened to put us under the caution flag for the first time today. Trying to find, there's Drew Fast. This looks like he was the one to go around. Now, looking at this initial replay, I'm not entirely sure if there was contact there. You see the 8 of Warren bugging in and out a little bit, and yeah, he definitely moved down into the 4 of Fast, and around goes Drew. Spins that car around and hard into the inside wall. Yeah, nothing you could really do there. But now we're going to go ahead and see what happened on the opening lap of the race, because we had some technical difficulties on our end. But this was lap number 1 of the race, and Bennett going to the inside. I think, yeah, just, overshot the corner, wiggled a little bit, spins out in front of the field, and somehow nobody hits the 84. And Rich Roy goes up the racetrack to try to avoid that Charger. And just an unfortunate situation for both of those guys involved. We are going to see some bold strategy, and it looks like Tyler Stallhood is indeed going to come down the pit lane along with a couple of the cars that were a lap down, as Blake Warren doing a restart of shame. Brendan Whitford down the pit lane as well. Now it looks like RJ Bishop and Connor Edwards are going to be the top 2 cars. Now, Caleb, we're only 8 laps into this race, but I'm still very surprised as RJ is going to mate with the pace car there. It's still very early for strategy, but we're going to see just how effective new tires are on, or new tires are compared to tires that are about 8 laps into a run, based on the tire wear. Rather, based on pretty much everything we saw in pre-race. It looks like fall off is going to be maybe about half a second. RJ is going to come down the pit lane here. So that's going to leave Connor Edwards. We'll get a lap led. How about that for Connor? I believe this is his first fuel race. RJ will get a couple of laps logged. And he will come down the pit lane. Lights are off on the pace car, so Apollo Hyde will jump down to the inside of that 02 Plan B Sales Camaro. We're going to see how effective this tire wear is. But again, we've seen Apollo Hyde run that bottom line, which has been fairly dominant, but we've also seen some guys and gals run the middle line as well. And that 02 car blinking out quite a bit. So Caleb, that might be something to be worried about a little bit, especially on this restart. It's Connor Edwards potentially warping into the back end of the field, but we're going to get a double file restart. Going to rack him up and send him off once again. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be very interesting. Of course, with Connor Edwards up there on the strategy call by staying out, like you were talking about, everybody else coming in for fresh tires, and while definitely not as much as some other tracks, tire wear still definitely means something here at Michigan. So we'll have to see what happens, but this could definitely get very interesting very quickly here on this restart. We'll see how it plays out.
Well, Edwards will be the control car once the field will get back to the green flag. But again, like, you got 10 lap older tires, and everybody else had come down as RJ Bishop and Tyler Stallhood stayed out to get a couple of laps led. But it will be Connor Edwards in his first fuel race, the race leader, and Apollo Hyde, the pole sitter, on the inside of that Camaro. Get this race restarted. 40 laps to go here from Michigan. Green flag back out and away. A really great restart for that number 100 car, but here comes Rogers storming up the inside. The doubles, or the 02, holding up Emi Schizzato just a little bit. This guy's got to be careful as everybody fans out, and around goes Schizzato. Same thing with Estrada, and Schizzato gets titanically shot. And that will, in fact, be a multi-car incident as Rich Roy into his second incident of the evening. Cautions breed cautions. And that all started with that stack up with the 02 car on the outside lane, and Emi Schizzato's bad luck this season will continue. We got one other car, that's the other target car. Rafaela Sorensen looks like they did a half spin off of turn number 3. And the gambit did not pay off for Connor Edwards, as he is going to fall really, really deep in the field. But yeah, you had a feeling that was happening with the second we saw that stack up, Caleb.
On older tires kind of spun them there off of the start, and which kind of stacked everybody up, and that's what you get there.
We'll see if anybody will come down the pit lane here. Only about maybe 100 or so yards into that run. But that was a titanic shot as Jelaine Sims is going to come down the pit lane here. Sims saw a couple other cars. Ike Durbin will surrender his spot. He was running deep in the field. He fell back quite a ways a bit in the 9th spot. But Apollo Hyde will, in fact, stay out, and goodness gracious. That was certainly one of the nastier wrecks that we have seen in quite some time, Caleb, and we're going to go right to the start of this accident and follow with Connor Edwards in the 02. And I think, did Focusato run in the back of the 9 car, or did Emi just get loose to the corner? Estrada up the racetrack. Those two spun simultaneously. I think Schizzato was spinning around already, but just got that final tap from Ike Durbin to completely turn her around. And the 29 car, Rich Roy, pretty much doing a backflip. Emi Schizzato, your preseason winner at Pensacola. They're going to do a 360 up into the air. Corbin Wentz doing some agricultural work as Andrew Estrada spun out by themselves on the opening. And then we'll go up in here and see what happened with Rafaela Sorensen. And I think Sorensen just tried to jump on the brakes. Sliding through the grass and goes up the racetrack. Yeah, just did a half spin off of turns 3 and 4, like we said. We got a couple of onboard replays to get to here. And starting, of course, with Emi Schizzato. So we go on board with Schizzato. Actually, don't have any audio yet, so we'll gotta turn the desktop audio on there. So trying to figure that out before we go back to the green flag. Now on board with the number 9 car. Got loose to the corner, just got a little bit of a tap there from Ike. And then Rich Roy plows into that target number 9. Only doing one revolution. Nothing too terrible there. And the other end of that spectrum on board with Rich Roy and the Roy construction car. And this is going to be a heck of a view as well. Yeah, Emmy was already getting loose to the corner, but just got that little tap and then a warp job. Yeah, Rich pretty much did a backflip there. It looked like Ryan Preece in the Daytona 500 earlier on this year. It's not what you want. And we'll get one more look at this in real time before we'll get back to the restart. A little bit of a tap there from Ike Durbin, spins the 9 car around, and yeah, that's the entire undercarriage of both of those cars. It's not what you want. It's definitely not what you want, and perfect timing. It's a field getting ready to go back down through the Reese's restart zone. Pace car about to head off on the pit lane here. I think we're actually going to do... Well, I don't know why the pace car remained on track.
All right, sure.
Okay. I've never seen that. I don't know if we're going to get another caution. I've never seen that in my life, but we're back to the green flag, and Zach Rogers trying to duck to the inside. Several cars getting some black flags that'll be ran through, but yeah, the pace car, I've never seen that. Oh my lord. I can't imagine Zach Rogers to the inside of Apollo Hyde. Caleb, have you ever seen that?
Only a couple times.
Zach Rogers to the race lead at that time by. And Hyde trying to fervently fight on the outside. Rogers on the inside. There's door to door. They're about to run over the pace car. Dunlaprade to third. The pace car is in the middle of the road, and Trek Togger is going to pull a cold trickle and hit the pace car because he hit every other damn thing on the track. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they're going to do one more revolution around the track, and is the pace car going to come down the pit lane here? Everybody's pulling a cold trickle here. I can't say I've ever seen that.
Things you can see sometimes in this game. Oh man.
And I think the pace car might be staying out an extra lap. It's on the high side in turns 3 and 4. Rogers to the inside of Hyde. Now it goes down the pit lane. It reminds me of what was that? The one story about Curtis Turner when he was the driver of the pace car at Daytona, and he stayed out an extra lap and raced the field. Of course, the pace car didn't stay out or didn't have quite the speed as it had with Curtis Turner. Of course, that was back, what, 1964, 65, something like that. But Hyde and Rogers still neck and neck down the back straightaway, and those two battling brought in Laprade into this battle. 3-car breakaway for the race lead, and all 20 entries still on track.
But whenever in the world we see, it's been a crazy battle up here for the race lead. In the meantime, Apollo Hyde, Zach Rogers both going at it up here. And like you're talking about, that kind of brought Dunlop Prod and the 74 up here into this mix, trying to make this a 3-horse race for this lead. And got a battle for 4th heating up behind them.
Trek Talker with a really good save. Trek Talker with a really good save. He'll fall back to 5th. But how about Trek? Because we got someone going around. Saw some smoke in the back. Not sure if somebody did another half spin off turns 3 and 4. But how about Trek Talker? He was running in 4th right as we saw him get very loose coming out of the corner, battling for that spot with Focusado, who's got a brand new livery. More on that in a moment. But how about this for Talker? His highest running position so far in Season 7. Falling back a little ways away on this long run. Just want to shout out Trek in that Suburban Cowgirl Steakhouse, number 60 Chevrolet Camaro. Rockin' P5. And now we got a 3-horse race for the race lead. It's Hyde, Rogers, and LaPrade, the 3 drivers that we had a good feeling were going to be the top 3 coming into this race, approaching the midway point through the contest. LaPrade has rocketed his way all the way up to that 3rd spot, and Rogers in the middle of a Season 6 veteran sandwich as Hyde bugging in and out there just a little bit. Yeah, Zach is going to have a real good run trying to keep that win streak alive. He's got 4 wins, rather make that 5 wins in a row. Dating back to the last 2 races of Season 6, looking to get 6 wins in a row. We're going to go 4 for 4 here. Hyde now still on the attack in the 100, and she's going to pull a little bit away from that 88 car.
Chisado, I tell you what, 37's closing in, and at least the last time by, that 37 was the fastest car out here in our top 4.
Fastest car on the racetrack, a 35.616 second lap, and he has reeled in these top 3 drivers. Togger has fallen back into the clutches of Nicky Conti. That's an absolute hornet's nest back in here in this battle for 5th. Conti trying to duck down to the inside of the 60. Remember, Conti last week finished 3rd at Bristol, trying to go underneath of that Camaro. Jelaine Sims, Drew Fast, and Crystal Bennett with a nice recovery in that 84. Togger into the outside wall, collects the 06 and the 84. Trouble off of turn number 2, and I believe the caution flag's going to come back out at will. And the commentators curse. Striking Trek Togger as he got loose off of turn 2 once again, could not collect it, and collects the Team Velocity 06 of Jelaine Sims, as well as Crystal Bennett, who looks to have a flat tire. Flat right front tire on that Lowe's number 84 car. And the caution flag is back out here. 3rd yellow of the evening, and that's going to reel everybody back into here. Nice to see her old friend the pace car back out on track. Hopefully we'll not pull a Curtis Turner this next time by. But this is going to be very interesting because the caution came out on lap number 23, and if this race indeed went caution-free, this would be the lap that these guys would come down. And everybody's going to hit the pit lane here.
Close.
If this race goes caution-free, that's a big if, Caleb. We may have reset the fuel mileage numbers because everybody's going to come down on lap number 24. You can do about 23 to 26 max, I think was the fuel strategy that the fuel numbers these guys could run here was 26 max. So these guys are going to be having to punch in the clutch a ton. But this is going to make things very, very interesting in the late stages of this race, if this race goes caution-free. And now I doubt it'll go caution-free. And, of course, we do have a couple laps being ran under the caution that'll factor into that just a little bit here. But Caleb could be setting up for ourselves a good old-fashioned fuel mileage race. Not the first time we've seen a fuel mileage race here at Michigan. And it will certainly not be the last top 5 coming off the pit lane. We're Hyde, Rogers, LaPrade, Focusato and Conti. Now that that's taken care of, we'll take a look and see what happened to put us under our third caution of the afternoon. And it all started with Trek Togger getting a little bit loose through the corner. Togger on the outside. Yeah, just overdrove the corner and turned number 2. Came back down the racetrack. Nowhere for Jelaine Sims to go or Crystal Bennett. I think Bennett's going to take not a big shot at the inside wall, but you see the tire explode on that 84 car. Sims going around. Same thing with Togger. You see all the damage on the left-hand side of that number 60 car. Tough break for those guys. We'll go on board here with Trek, but yeah, just overdriving the corner. Nothing you can really do about that, Caleb. Just an unfortunate situation for Trek, who was running in 5th at the time.
Start to slip wide, the grip goes away, the car wants to lock up on you. Sometimes it just goes straight to the outside wall like we saw there. So yeah, really tough grip. Here's where all those guys are. Now, like you kind of mentioned earlier, this is really going to get interesting from here because, like you said, it's probably about the time we would pit if this race stayed green all the way. So, if this does go green to the end, this could definitely get interesting. The strategists might want to get that fuel mileage checkbook they might have tossed in the trash once all those cautions started coming out.
As we go on board with Jelaine Sims for one final look at this accident, up the racetrack goes Togger, and nowhere for Jelaine Sims to go in that Granger car. One more hit into the rear end of the 60. And Allied, we'll take one more look at this accident in real time, and then we'll get back to the action. But yeah, Togger, wanted to give him his flowers because he was just running a really, really good race so far. That's a real good look at just how tight through the center of the corner he was. And nowhere to go for a couple other drivers. But like you said, Caleb, that's going to be very interesting in terms of the fuel numbers, where these guys will run. Perfect timing and a perfect launch for Zach Rogers as the green flag back out in the air. We're officially past the midway point in this race, and Rogers got the restart of his life in that 88 car. Fast. Racing fast in that 4 car. To the inside, Dunlaprade looking to squeeze off the 100, and not a good restart there for Apollo Hyde whatsoever. Crystal Bennett goes around, caution flag number 4 on the speedway. I think the question if these guys could make it on fuel was absolutely solved there. Cautions breed cautions, and cautions tend to get a little bit under heat. These cautions are in heat, as you hear Rogers punching in the clutch down the front straightaway, and these cautions certainly on something. But how about that restart for Drew Fast? Climbing all the way up to 2nd after restarting in 4th, I want to say. Nobody's going to come down the pit lane. Well, actually, let's see if anybody will come down the pit lane here once they catch back up to the pace car. But the 3rd accident Crystal Bennett has been involved in here this afternoon. Just tough situation for her. 19 cars still on track. Emmy Schizzato has pulled the 9 car behind the pit wall after that 2nd caution of the afternoon. What a recovery for Drew Fast. We're going to see some car. Ooh. Nearly some contact there, as Brendan Woodford is going to lead the field down the pit area here. Some more split strategy. Some drivers electing to stay out with the track position. I thought there was going to be some contact there between the 06 and the 7 of Sims and Stallhood coming down the pit lane. But very, very interesting strategy calls for a lot of these guys. Most prominent car coming down the pit lane to top off on fuel, that 37 of Focusato. Zach Rogers will elect to stay out here. We'll grab another gander at what happened to Crystal Bennett. Bennett getting some more repairs. And we're gonna take a look. We're gonna get a look at this restart here right from the start. You just see the incredible launch that Zach Rogers gets off. Hyde spun the tires just a little bit, and that opened the door for Drew Fast on the inside. But now back in here with the 84 car. Looks like Corbin Wentz hit the outside wall, and Bennett just nowhere to go. Ran right into the back of that Mountain Dog Food number 08 and spins that 84 car around right off of the restart. If I had a nickel for every time Crystal Bennett spun that car right off of a double file restart, I'd have 2 nickels. It's not a lot, but it's kind of odd that it's happened twice, Caleb.
It's been a very tough night there for Crystal Bennett, and it really sucks to see, but chance to recover. Have to see if she can, but now that we've had a caution here, it's definitely going to shake the fuel up once again. So, had some cars come down the pit lane, some stay out.
Definitely. As we see the onboard look at Bennett running into the back end of the 08. It's not what you want there if you're Bennett, absolutely. Absolutely not what you want. And, well, the game crashed for me. That is. And hopefully. Well, fortunately it did. I believe it was. Come on. Alrighty, there we go. So apologize for the technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll get this race restarted in just a couple of moments. I think, yeah, perfect timing for us here. Trying exactly 20 laps to go. Green flag back out in the air.
Solid restart by both lanes. Drew Fast staying on the quarter panel.
Drew Fast underneath the 88 of Zach Rogers, and Rogers trying to keep that win streak alive.
Great run on that outside from Rogers. He's going to hold on.
Oh, Fast
gets put in the middle of 3 wide.
He got put in the middle. Here comes Hyde on the outside of that 100 car.
Here comes Jolene Sims in the 06.
Sims with a really good recovery in that Team Velocity car. Looking at potentially good Team Velocity 1-2. Nearly some contact. Sims into the outside wall. They're continue to bang off of the front straightaway. LaPrade down the inside in turn number 4, in turns 1 and 2, I should say. And here comes Hyde for the race lead. Hyde on the outside of Rogers.
A bobble there off a 2, but still on the quarter panel of the 88.
19 laps to go, and I believe our ticker slide job here coming for Rogers in the 88 car.
With a run goes Hyde.
Hyde making some contact. They're into one another. Hyde and Rogers still door to door, and I apologize. Our ticker is pulling a Fox Sports 1 where it is unfortunately broken. So right now we're going to show you this battle for the race lead with no graphics on screen. Rogers and Hyde door to door down turns 1 and 2. Through turns 3 and 4, Drew Fast, a good recovery in that 4 car. Same thing with Sims in the 06. And it's still anybody's race.
For this lead.
Rogers with a really good side draft on the 100. They continue to fight aggressively. Hyde nearly cutting down. She's going to go around. Hyde hard into the outside wall. The caution flag back out.
No.
And for the second time this season, Apollo Hyde gets turned from the race lead. And Zach Rogers' largest competition of the evening just got tapped around. Goodness gracious. Caution number 5 is out on the speedway. And we'll immediately take a look and see what happened. Actually, we'll go ahead and reboot Apache here. First and foremost. See if that helps at all. It does not. I believe I might have to reset Apache here, unfortunately. But man, that was a great battle, and unfortunately, that was the only way that it could have ended. My, oh my. My goodness, indeed. Of course, NR2003 has not been started yet, as the field is going to come down the pit lane here. Brandon Whitford is going to stay out. Remember, Whitford was one of the drivers that stayed out initially, as Rogers is going to come down the pit lane here in that number 88 car. No pit stall. I haven't had a crash like that in a while, so that's very, very frustrating, especially since we can't see the pit lanes anymore, as Rogers will go ahead. It's Apollo Hyde. No, that was just a racing deal. There's no wrongdoing there. Quickly take a look and see what happened. Although it was pretty obvious what happened there. And just a racing deal, nothing much. I think Hyde was the one that came down on the 88 car, and just a slight tap, and around goes Apollo Hyde, hard driver's side into that concrete wall. And that was just a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation there for Hyde. And just very, very unfortunate there.
Very unfortunate there indeed. But yeah, like you said, kind of just a racing deal there. You had Rogers and Hyde going after each other there, and unfortunately just kind of boiled over there in 1 and 2 as both tried to go for the same real estate. Rogers kind of missed the white line there. Hyde came down just a little bit, but ultimately, like I said, just both trying to go for the same real estate. No one specific party at fault there. Like I said, just a racing incident. And sometimes, I hate to see it, but sometimes that's just the way that battles end sometimes.
It certainly is. Brendan Whitford to the race lead. And we've been able to get our ticker nice and orderly here. The field is going to double up. Fortunately, I don't know why GNL is being very finicky right now. It's right now showing negative 37 to go.
Yes.
Let's see if I don't know why GNL is being finicky right. It's always weird when the game crashes and you try to reload GNL. I believe once it goes back to the green flag, we should be fine. Emphasis on should. Although, as of right now, we don't think we're going to get an official lap counter. We'll try and change that here. Screen frozen for just a brief moment as we reset the ticker. See if that will help at all. Yeah, showing negative 37 to go. We'll see if it changes, and if it doesn't, then we'll just keep the green flag logo on here. 19 cars still on the track. 13 laps to go in this contest. Here is the rub. Zach Rogers with the second place spot. Brendan Whitford with the race lead. Got Drew Fast in the 4-car and Jelaine Sims making up row 2. RJ Bishop and Dunn Laprade out front. Green flag back on the air. Brendan Whitford spun the tires. That's going to get another jam up in here. Zach Rogers out like a lightning rod right now. Whitford way up the racetrack, blocking Sims.
Rod around the outside. Fantastic move there out of the 74.
Rod really, really good right now. And that
Caution. Roy.
Rich Roy going around. Caution number 6, if I'm not mistaken, out on the speedway. As Rich Roy has gone around in turns 1 and 2. That is the 3rd restart crash that we have seen here this afternoon. Right now it's showing lap 38 of -1. I don't know what the deal is with GNL right now. It's very annoying. Zach Rogers just continuing to eat up some caution laps. Especially with the fuel question being out of everyone's mind right now. Doesn't look like Rogers will come down the pit lane. If he does, we'll go ahead and make sure we let everybody know as we'll take a look and see what happened. Did he get a little bit of help from Rafaela Sorensen? Yeah, he did. He got loose all by himself and then got punched in the mouth there by the 25. Andrew Estrada has had a rough afternoon so far. And a Rich Roy going around in car number 29. And just a tough break for Rich Roy. Lights are off on the pace car. We're on lap number 40. 11 laps to go. Here from Michigan, Zach Rogers continues to lead. Fastest lap of the race belonging to Vincenzo Focusata with 35.646 second lap. I don't know why it's showing -40 to go. It's very, very weird. But Caleb, this has been a fairly fun race so far. 6 cautions on the board. We're going to come back to 10 laps to go this next time around. How many more cautions do you think we have in the bank with everybody starting to get aggressive now on these single file restarts?
Flag, the aggression's going to just keep ramping up. We'll see if we can maybe get a green flag run to end this race out. We are starting single file, it looks like, this time around, so we'll have to see how that shakes things up. But regardless, it's going to be a very exciting final 10 laps here from Michigan. This has been a fantastic race here so far, but here we go.
Zach Rogers back out in front. He leads the field. Back to the green flag. 10 laps to go. How about Dunn Laprade in that 74 car? Solid restart for him as well, and Drew Fast rocking P3 right now. Couple of drivers warping in and out with 10 laps to go. Should be lap 41 up on the screen. Lap 41 of 50 and not 41 of -1. Here comes Laprade to the inside. Laprade trying to drive that Hershey's car to the inside. Nearly caught the quarter panel of Rogers. And here we go. Drop the gloves, ladies and gentlemen. 9 laps to go, and we've got a dogfight for the race lead. Rogers pulling away by about a car length, and Drew Fast trying to make his way into this battle. Same thing with Sims and Focusato, and Crystal Bennett will just not quit. Bennett in the 84 car trying to get a top 5, trying to side draft off the 06. Not able to get there in time. Will now go underneath of Jelaine Sims, trying to make it stick. 6-car battle for the race lead here. Here's LaPrade to the inside once again. Does he have a little bit of a ledge underneath the 88? He sold him a dummy. He tries to go to the high side. Rogers read it like a book and broke the momentum. That's going to allow Fast to come back into this battle. Fast trying. Rogers, this time he's got a little bit of a ledge. Does he have a little bit more of a run going down the back straightaway? LaPrade's going to have to get out of the gas going through the corners. Rogers on the outside. He'll carry the momentum, but LaPrade on the inside. He's going to make it stick there wire to wire towards 3 and 4.
And that's going to bring Drew Fast in. He looks to the inside of LaPrade.
Not quite able to get a ledge to the inside. Was neither LaPrade or Fast. And we've got 6 cars all in line. LaPrade is absolutely beating the tires off that 74 car. 6 laps to go here. And LaPrade trying to use all 6 of those laps to his advantage. Crystal Bennett forces the 0-6 into the outside wall. Sims got punted by Bennett. And that's going to make this a 4-horse race. Off turns 3 and 4. 5, count 'em, 5 laps to go. We're at the point of no return, and LaPrade trying to get to the inside of that 88 car. Fast trying to fight a 2-front war. Trying to attack the 74 and hold off against the 37. Fast has got a fast car. He's planting that 4 car to the inside. And LaPrade trying to use every trick in the book as he got tight off of 2.
Every trick in the book and every inch on the racetrack.
Remember, LaPrade finished second in this sportsman race here all the way back in June to Keith Hughes. He's all the way back in the sportsman series, and he's hoping that doesn't translate over into the Grand National Series. A wide arc to the inside with 4 laps to go. Rogers trying to hold on, and he is just playing every sort of defense he can right now. LaPrade tight to the center of the corner. That's going to open the door for Fast. Fast is into the 74. They both spin around. Down to the inside. LaPrade hard into the inside wall. No caution. 2 of the dominant drivers in this final 10-lap run take each other out. And that'll put Vincenzo Focasato in a spot to potentially take this win away from Rogers. Can he?
At 37's within attacking range, and we've seen that he's been fast all night long.
LaPrade and Fast are out of the way down the pit lane. 3 laps to go. Coming around to Sticks High this next time by. That might be it for Rogers.
Back, but Apollo Hyde looking for 3rd.
Hyde storming her way up. She restarted this race in 19th, has made her way up to 3rd. Some smoke on the front straightaway. That was from the 4. 2 laps to go here from the Michigan International Speedway. What does Focasato have in the tank to try to get around Rogers, and can Apollo Hyde get up to the front in time?
Ran a lap time about 4/10 quicker than our leaders that last time by.
Yeah,
that 100 is flying. I don't know if she's close enough, but Hyde definitely might still have something. But here we go, coming to the white flag. Castano trying to do everything he can, but Rogers doing everything he can to hold off. Here we go, white flag.
White flag is out one more time around the Michigan International Speedway. I think if Hyde is going to catch up and pass anybody, it'll be Focasato. Trying to lock up that podium spot after spinning out to bring out the last caution of the race. Meanwhile, it's Rogers, who has dominated this race so far, has led 22 laps down the back straightaway for the final time. Catching up to the back end of the 4, not going to catch up in time. Off of turns 3 and 4, Zach Rogers coming around to see the checkered flag. 4 wins in a row. A Wendy's 4 for 4, if you will. Zach Rogers will win here at Michigan. Ike Durbin spins out down the front straightaway. Out of the way and out of mind, but it's the Bulldog with his 4th win in a row. has dominated the early stages of this season for the Fuel Grand National Series. Vincenzo Focasato with an impressive second place run. An even more impressive Apollo Hyde coming back from a late race spin in the 100 to get the job done and finish in P3. But it's Zach Rogers who holds off to win a wild one here in Michigan. Crystal Bennett will finish 4th, and Jelaine Sims will round out the top 5. Zach Rogers burning it down on the front straightaway like we have been accustomed to seeing. And Caleb, I'm glad you're in the booth because it's getting a little bit hard to come up with some questions to ask Zach, but I'd say after a wild race like this, 6 caution flags, I think we're going to have quite a few questions for everybody here.
That was an absolutely incredible race here from Michigan. Definitely a lot to talk about after that one.
Certainly was. That was indeed a banger, as the young kids call it.
As they say.
It was a banger, whatever you want to call it. It was absolutely just incredible. So we get ready for our post-race interviews here at the Michigan International Speedway. Zach Rogers going to victory lane. Take a look at your finishing results here in just a moment. Getting the top down, getting everything all situated. Zach Rogers going to victory lane. Focasato and Hyde will round out your podium. We'll hear from all 3 of those drivers here in just a couple of moments as we'll get our post-race interview started here after an incredible Kettle Lakes 100 at the Michigan International Speedway. And we return to today's coverage of the Kettle Lakes 100 post-race show here on the North American Sim Racing Network. Trey Wright and Caleb Rose bringing you the action of a wild fourth race of the season here in the Fuel Racing League as we begin our post-race interviews here on the North American Sim Racing Network, starting, of course, with the driver of the number 100 Mobile One Epson Honda Accord. There's Apollo Hyde. Apollo, you got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
I do, Trey.
Well, that was certainly our most interesting race of the season so far. 6 caution flags on the day, and you were caution flag number 5, if I'm not mistaken. You got turned by Zach Rogers with about 15 laps to go. You were able to claw your way back to a third-place run in that number 100 car. How were you able to really recover after that spin?
Yeah, so as far as the spin is concerned, I just misjudged the space that I had. I went for a line. I had already committed myself to a line that I was just never going to be able to get to, and the 88 was there. So it's 100% on me. I needed better spatial awareness. But other than that, I mean, this is probably the fastest car I've ever taken to Michigan. And I'm glad that I keep on saying that. That's now 3 races in a row where I've definitely brought my fastest car ever. At Darlington, Bristol, and now Michigan. So that's 3 in a row where I felt like that I've just had an absolute rocket ship. I gotta really thank my boys back at the shop for setting up just a wonderful car. And yeah, right there at the end, the only thing that really mattered was I going to be able to catch the draft of the front 5 or 6 cars? And of course, Dunn and Drew getting together with about 2.5 laps to go definitely helped me a little bit to get into the top 3. I don't know if I would have gotten around any of them. But yeah, we were hauling ass down there in the final segment of the race. And I think if we got another like 4 laps or so, I think I probably could have contended for the win.
Yeah, you were, like you said, you were absolutely hauling ass down the back straightaway. You were the fastest car on track for a couple of laps there with those 4 Fresh Eagles, but being able to have that experience from the Sportsman race all the way back in late June, how did that really translate over to the sports or the Grand National side of things, you know, with the Sportsman fixed setup versus the open setup here in Michigan? How did that really translate, and how much skill were you able to apply to this GN race tonight?
Absolutely none of it. They were 2 completely different tracks, believe it or not. The Michigan that we ran at for the Sportsman race had that weird banking transition down on the bottom lane, and that doesn't have that here. Instead, it's just your car just gets a little bit tighter rather than going over a bump and kicking loose. So it's just completely different. It's kind of similar in the way where it's difficult to pass on the bottom, which I tried to use that to my advantage, where I was trying to just run the middle for most of the race. That's where my car felt the most comfortable, and I know my car was definitely too loose to hold the bottom. So yeah, it's a completely different track, completely different mindset. The tire wear was more in the Sportsman race, just completely different. Nothing was able to be applied, honestly.
Definitely was. We saw a lot of guys really getting really loose out of the corners, especially in the apex of 1 and 3. And everybody was able to just really run a nice loose setup. We saw that bite some people in the rear end, be able to really hold on to it. It was a little bit of a weird race. You know, what were your thoughts on the pace car pulling a Curtis Turner during that last run and staying out on the racetrack there?
Didn't bother me any. I flew by him and I, waved to him, give him a nice good smile and a thumbs up for doing a good job. Pace car definitely had some work tonight.
It definitely did. You know, it's funny that we're talking about pre-race, the amount of rare things that we've seen in NR, whether it be debris cautions, retirement by way of fire. I don't think I've ever seen the pace car stay out for an extra lap like that, but overall, Caleb, you got anything for Apollo before we'll get into the sponsor segment?
First of all, I definitely got to say, that was a fantastic showing there, especially there at the end after that incident. Like you both said, you were absolutely hauling the mail there at the end to get back up to the 3rd position. But with that, I definitely have to ask you, because I'm honestly kind of curious. If there was a couple more laps, do you think you could have maybe gotten up to Rogers again? Or
I think I would have needed about 4 more laps. I was pretty consistently there. I was knocking a 10th and a half off. And I felt like if I could get to the middle lane on Rogers, I would just basically go up the track a higher groove than him because I wouldn't want to try to pass him to the inside. It's basically a sunk cost. I knew exactly what I would need to do to be able to get around him. It's just I would have needed another 5 laps, and who knows what would have happened. Maybe I might have killed my right front tire trying to get around him, and I just finished second anyways. It's a bunch of different what ifs. We don't really know. The only way that we would have been able to tell is if I didn't chop across Zach's nose there at the end.
Anything more, Caleb?
Excuse me, but definitely would have been exciting to see what if, but regardless, definitely a very exciting race and a very great performance by you out there tonight. Definitely have to give you a lot of props for that after coming back after that spin. So yeah, great job out there tonight.
Definitely a great job out of you, Apollo, and by now you definitely know the drill. We'll give you the floor to shout out anybody you want here on the NES Arena airwaves. Thank any sponsors you got here. The floor is yours.
Just want to say, Epson, exceed your vision. This car has been awesome, and we're gonna keep running this car probably throughout the end of the season. This Honda Type R has been hooked up all season long so far, and I want to keep that momentum up.
Certainly will, and another podium finish, P3 for Apollo Hyde in tonight's contest. Apollo, congratulations, and we'll see you next week in Chicago.
See you next week in Chicago.
User was moved out of your channel.
That was Apollo Hyde, driver of the number 100 Mobile One Epson Honda Type R. And now we'll go to our second place finisher of tonight, driver
User was moved to your channel.
of the number 37 Valvoline Millennium Autosport Mazda, Mr. Vincenzo Focusati. Got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
That I do, Tree.
Well, you definitely had quite an up and down race, all things considered. You were able to start this race more towards the front end, but you spent a lot of it more in the middle of the pack. It wasn't until about 20 laps to go that Valvoline Mazda started to come alive. And of course, you were able to take advantage of some other drivers mucking up a little bit to get a nice runner-up finish. How was your race overall?
I'm very happy with that. I couldn't have asked for more. And like you said, I know that I got a better result than I frankly deserved, with misfortune striking some other people who were faster than me. But the car felt wonderful. This track has always been one of the most comfortable for me, so I'm really excited when we come here that I can sort of relax, if you will, and see how fast I can go. And I was really happy to be able to race with Ike and Emmy and Jolene, Drew, everyone around me. It was a fun night. I had a great time out there.
It definitely was a fun night, and like we said, that car came alive right in the late stages. But you're racing for fourth, and you were trying to get to the race lead. You're trying to get underneath of Drew Fast, who got into the back end of Dunlop by the looks of it. What was your point of view on that accident? What was the mindset trying to go after that with about 2.5 laps to go?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was right behind that. From my perspective, it looked like an unfortunate case of being in a tight spot with few laps to go and no time to give anything up. I think Dunn was trying to... He knew how close that Drew was to his back bumper, and he was trying not to lift so that Drew wouldn't make contact with him. But in order to keep in the gas, he also pushed a little bit wider, and Dunn was just in a bad spot. And that's not to say that Drew put him in a bad spot. Drew did nothing wrong, but the two of them had to get close in order to fight for second, and by the time they got off at turn 2, they were in a tight spot, and unfortunately it went south. So that was a real shame from my perspective, but I suppose that's what I saw.
It will just look like a run-of-the-mill racing deal, like we saw that about 6 different times tonight, where it's just a racing deal, nothing real, no ill will there, and
yeah, for sure,
absolutely, it's racing, it's racing, it's netcode, it's lagging in and out, it's just a whole lot of stuff to factor in here with NR Online Racing. But speaking of Millennium Autosport, he had Andrew Estrada making his season debut in that number 25 car. How were you impressed with his performance so far tonight?
Yeah, very much so. I believe he brought it home in 15th place, and this was his very first open setup race. And for the record, it was only his 8th start in a stock car in his life. He has next to no experience, and for him to show up in open setup where he has the freedom to use the tools and where it's much easier to make your car too much to handle, he finished the race, and I don't believe he self-spun at any point, and he was really fast out there, so that was exciting to see. It was really fun to have the entire team together all at once, all 4 cars out there at once, so that was a good time with him and with Rich and with Ike.
Yeah, and all 4 of you guys putting on a performance. I know Rich got caught up in a couple of incidents, and we saw Ike doing his patented spin the car out down the front straightaway infield right at the end. So, all
Yeah,
of
that
you,
sounds right.
yeah, all 4 of you guys were able to get some substantial TV time here. Caleb, you got anything for a runner-up finisher?
I definitely have to ask, because I tell you what, it definitely swept us off our feet when it happened. What were you thinking, or what was going through your mind in the closing stages of the race? And right in front of you, you see second and third places take each other out.
Oh man, my heart sunk. To tell you the truth, that's what happened. It just sank into my stomach because I was having a good race with them, and I love Dunn, and I haven't raced much with Drew, but he's been fun to race with so far, and it looked like a mistake anyone could make. It just hurt me to know that something so easy to do cost them so much. So next time they come back, they'll be fast again, I'm sure, and they'll be fighting for more podiums.
It'll
Yeah,
definitely be exciting to see the fight that you all might have next time. But as far as now, a fantastic performance out of you tonight, and great job out there, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, Caleb. Thank you very much.
Well, Vincenzo, you know the drill. We'll give you the floor to shout out any sponsors you want here on the NESRN airwaves. Thank anybody you want. You can take all the time you need.
Yeah, if you're watching, Cameron, hope you enjoyed the show. Glad I didn't have access to wherever your live chat was. Dad, if you watched it, hope that was a fun race. Anyone back from the EFR side of things, or NR home, so to speak, I had a lot of fun tonight, and I hope that you all enjoyed the show. And thanks for Tyler for running the circus over here, and thank you too for presenting it for all to see.
Pleasure's all ours. Thank you so much, Vincenzo, for second place for finish, and we'll see you next week at Chicago Motor Speedway. Should be a fun race.
Yeah, that's right, Cicero. I'm excited. But yeah, thank you both once more. Appreciate it.
Of course, man.
User was moved out of your channel.
That was Vincenzo Focusato, driver of the number 37 Valvoline Mazda for Millennium Autosport. Like you mentioned, all 4 of the Millennium Autosport entries in this race. And of course, that'll bring us to our final driver of the race, a man
User was moved to your channel.
that needs little introduction at this point in the season. 6 wins in a row in the Fuel Grand National Series, 4 wins to start Season 7. The Bulldog, Zach Rogers, got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth.
Hey, I'm flexing. What's up, man?
Well, nothing much. I know you're definitely up. You've been up for the last month or so, and I'm glad I have Caleb in the booth here because he'll have a little bit more fresher perspective because I'm starting to run out of questions to ask you, dude. Just another really good race out of you, but not as dominant as you were in the previous 3 races. You had to fend off so much elite talent in this contest. Just dive into what you're able to do, especially following, or rather, battling with Apollo Hyde, and then you accidentally run into the rear quarter panel, and the entire complexion of the race changes. Just walk us through what happened after that.
Oh, well, first off, Apollo came down on me and spun out on their own, so that wasn't really my fault. So, but yeah, it was very hard to pass on the inside tonight. As you saw, Apollo actually, they got to my outside, and they just sent it off in the one to get to my outside there. And they would have cleared me if the contact hadn't occurred there going in the one the lap after. They had an equally fast car to me, and you just really couldn't pass on the bottom on this version of the track. So you wanted to be loose enough to where the car wouldn't necessarily get tight as the run went on. As I had told you before the race, there wasn't really much tire fall off, and we were definitely not going to see much of that in the draft. So you wanted to be loose enough. You wanted your spoiler to be down a little, not too much, but just like a little. And then, you just had to manage the draft a little bit. I was trying one time to get Dunn to go with me so that we could pass Apollo drafting by them on the front, but Dunn wouldn't take. So then I had to quickly jump back up in front of Dunn, or he was going to get to my outside and go by me. That was really early on. So yeah, this version of Michigan, you just kind of had to run the middle in 1 and 2 to defend, and then 3 and 4, you wanted to run the bottom because it would drift up pretty quick. If you ran the middle in 3 and 4, you'd get up in those bumps at the top of 4 quicker, and it would cost you like a mile an hour or so, and you really wanted to keep that. So that was how you had to drive the track tonight.
Definitely was, and it was a really, really racy track, like you said. There was so much talent and competition right at the end of this race, but with about 2.5 laps to go, probably the biggest incident of the night happened, where your two biggest competitors of that final 10-lap run of Drew Fast and Don LaPrade took each other out in just a racing deal. And after you saw those two take each other out, and you just had to fend off Vincenzo Focasato, who was about 2 car lengths back. How much pressure did that really take off of you, knowing that your two biggest pieces of competition were like really, really, taken out of the race? You only had to worry about one car.
Well, so I had noticed the lap prior that Dunn had started to get tight off of 2, and now one thing I had done on that last pit stop was I had cranked my track bar up from 8.5 to 9.5, which was preventing me from feeling that sense of tightness on exit from having less fuel in the car. So I had seen him get a little tight coming out of 2 the lap before, so I knew that I just had to keep managing my stuff. It was, unfortunate to see him and Drew wreck there. Dunn just tried to carry a little too much speed the second lap after, and he just got way too tight. And I think a little bit of panic might have set in there with Drew right up his bumper. And, ultimately, he probably would have got run over either way. So, yeah, when Vincenzo was the only one left there, I knew that Apollo and it looked like Crystal were going to maybe be able to get a little bit of draft up to us. And then I wasn't sure how much they were going to have, but Apollo, they were flying. And we got to 2 to go, and I looked at the F2, and I was like, they're coming, but they're not going to get to me in time. So I was chilling pretty much after Dunn and Drew wrecked.
You definitely were. And then looking ahead to next week's race at the Flat Chicago Motor Speedway, what are your expectations for that? How are you going to try and run that race? It's going to be another really technical track, which has been your specialty. What's the game plan going into Chicago next week?
Oh, I'll have to do probably an hour of practice for the first time all year because I've never raced at that track. I think I might have done one fixed setup race eons ago with like GNS or CTS, but I have not done a race on that track like competitively in all my time on the game. So I'll probably be able to use a New Hampshire setup as a base, which means Apollo, they're going to be a huge favorite for next week because arguably a year ago they should have won at New Hampshire one time that we ran it because they were faster than me. They were able to stay in front of me. So I'd watch out more so for Apollo next week than myself personally. I think it will fit into my driving style well, but it's a track I'm going to have to go figure out for a little bit this weekend.
Will definitely be some adjustments for next weekend's race in Cicero. Caleb, you got any final thoughts here for our race winner?
Well, no matter what kind of series, what kind of track I see you in, the Zach Rogers domination is always inevitable. A great showing out of you here tonight, and I definitely got to ask you, what's going through your mind there in those last couple of laps battling there with Dunn LaPrade, is eventually in the end, it's 37 to Focasato.
Yeah, like I said, it just had to run the middle and 1 to have the defensive line there so that they couldn't get a good bite off exit. And then there was a moment there where I was wondering if Drew was going to maybe take it 3 wide. That would have probably kept us 3 wide going into 3, but he committed to giving me draft down the back straightaway, and that allowed me to clear Dunn again back down the back. So if he hadn't and had tried to go crazy and do a little fun 3 wide, it would have got really interesting because the very top of this track is useless. There's no grip up there. So it would have been a tight 3 wide into turn 3. Probably still would have came off turn 4 with the better run, but I might have still been pretty tight with Dunn if that had happened. So that was really the only other thought there at the end. And then I was also hoping when we restarted with 10 to go that we just got to the 5 to go point of no return, because I did not want to have to decide if I needed to pit for 2 or 4 or tape it up or what, because then it just, makes it really stressful for 35 seconds or so under yellow. when you're in an open setup race trying to figure out what to do. It's not just a matter of do I pit and take 2 or 4 and fill it up. It's a matter of do I pit, take 2 and 4, raise the track bar, add tape. Like, there's a lot of stuff to consider in the open setup there.
There definitely is, but you've been able to master everything here, and a brand new paint scheme for you here this weekend. But Zach, like you've been accustomed to for the past 6 races here in the North American Sim Racing Network, we'll give you the floor to shout out anybody you want here over the NASRN airwaves. Thank anybody that you want. The floor is yours, my man.
So fun fact, this paint scheme was actually done back in, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019 by Cosman of Splash and Go Graphics, back when Cosman was still part of the NR2003 community. As a lot of people know, Cosman's full-time iRacing painter now. He does amazing paint schemes, and this was a Hot Wheels scheme that I wanted done on a car for the Manx Cup mod. And I had my boy Cody Lamas. I had the base on my files, and I figured, I haven't run this scheme since like 2019, 2020 or so, because no one runs Manx Cup 19 anymore. Let's drag that back out, and we got it converted here. Where was gonna run this scheme, I think season 5, but I ended up not running it. Randall Coleman actually ran this paint scheme because it was the only 9 car in the car pack back in season 5. But yeah, this is the first time of me running it in like a good amount of time, and glad we were able to get a victory in it because I love this scheme, man. Go wild. Acceleracers reference.
Definitely was fast here tonight, and a wild paint scheme ends up in victory lane for a wild race. Zach, congratulations on your 4th win of the season and your 6th win in a row in the Fuel Grand National Series, and we'll see you next week in Cicero.
Yeah, before I forget, shout out to you and Caleb for the broadcast. Shout out to Tyler for the league. And the undefeated month of September continues. This is 9 wins and 9 races, and we're on a streak of 13 wins across NR right now.
You're absolutely kicking tail right here.
Not to stroke my own ego or anything. People love when I do that, and I love when I do that too.
Definitely.
Is that dirty?
You're fine. We're fine. We're on YouTube. We can do whatever the hell we're fine. We can do whatever the hell we want.
I like to joke here. You have to have fun here.
We're not Jimmy Kimmel. We're not getting canceled.
Oh, man.
Too soon. All right, Zach Rogers, congratulations on another win. We'll see you next week in Cicero.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your channel.
That was Zach Rogers, driver of the number 88 Spinebuster Chevrolet Camaro for Team Velocity, getting the job done here at the Michigan International Speedway. Before we get into our final thoughts, Caleb, we'll go through a top-down run through the order with Zach Rogers finishing in 1st, Vincenzo Focasato was 2nd, Paulo Hyde finished in 3rd, Crystal Bennett 4th, Jelaine Sims recovered to finish 5th. And again, Caleb, I really wanted to point out Crystal Bennett because they went through the absolute ringer through this race, was involved in half of the cautions, I believe maybe even 4 of the cautions, actually half of the official yellows, including that, or not including that opening lap crash that set her a lap down, but they were able to battle back all the way to a 4th place run, so I just wanted to shout out Crystal Bennett for that. 5th was Jelaine Sims, Ike Durbin 6th, Nikki Conti 7th, RJ Bishop 8th, Tyler Stallhood 9th, and Rafaela Sorensen rounded out the top 10. 11th was Trek Togger, 12th Blake Warren, 13th Brandon Whitford, 14th was Corbin Wentz, his highest finish this season so far, 15th Andrew Estrada, 16th Connor Edwards, 17th Rich Roy, 18th Dunn LaPrade, 19th Drew Fast, and rounding out the field, the only car that failed to finish the race, Emi Schizzato, finished in 20th. Caleb, what are your final thoughts on a wildly fun race to call here at Michigan? 6 caution flags on the day, but really a really good race, and not as much of a poop show as we've seen. You see the amount of cautions, you would think, 6 cautions in a 50-lap race, that's going to be a terrible race to watch. That was a hell of a race. That was a banger, like we said.
That was absolutely a very fun race here for Michigan. Saw a lot of great battles all throughout the race, and just some great lead battles as well. And overall, just some fantastic racing we saw here tonight. Some great performances out of guys like Zach Rogers, and some great recoveries there. Like you mentioned, Crystal Bennett, Apollo Hyde, they both had absolutely nothing short of biblical recoveries there at the end to recover do, like you said, I believe 4th for Bennett and 3rd for Apollo Hyde, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like you said, just biblical recoveries for both of those drivers, and
Yeah.
Hyde was able to bounce back thanks to having 6-lap older tire or 6-lap newer tires than everybody else. But both of those drivers, round of applause for both of those guys being able to put the pedal to the metal, putting it through the floorboard, and being able to have a good recovery.
That was just absolutely fantastic here for Michigan. Cautions aside, like I said, we saw some fantastic racing here tonight, some fantastic lead battles, and just all over the racetrack was absolutely so much fun here tonight for Michigan. And cannot wait to see what these next couple of weeks have in store. Chicago is definitely going to be a very interesting one. I have to see how it plays out, though, but very, very excited to see how it will.
Yeah, it's a flat track in Cicero where it used to hold IndyCar races. So just to clarify, it's Chicago Motor Speedway, not the Chicagoland Speedway. Although Chicagoland, that would be a hell of a race as well. But it's the Chicago Motor Speedway, the Round of Chicago, for race number 5 of Season 7 of the Fuel Grand National Series here on the NESRN. But that is going to do it. From the Michigan International Speedway, congratulations once again to Zach Rogers for his 4th win in a row here in the Fuel Grand National Series, and we'll see you next week on September 24th with an 8:55 airtime and a 9 p.m. qualifying time here on the North American Sim Racing Network for Race 5, the Round of Chicago, live from the Chicago Motor Speedway on your home for the Fuel Racing League, North American Sim Racing Network. On behalf of Caleb Rose, everybody at the Fuel Racing League, on the entire NASRN, my name is Trey Wright saying so long from Brooklyn. We'll see you next week from the Chicago Motor Speedway in the home of Saul Goodman. Next week here on the NASRN. Have a great evening, folks.